Welcome back, Patriots, to the Ball Brad Show. Is it, in fact, Friday? What is that? July 26th? Holy lordy, folks. This year is flying by. We are so close to the election. It is truly head spinning. And it's going to go by fast, especially with the news that's coming out and the media massaging the shoulders of the Democrat Party. We got a lot of stuff to cover today that's surrounding the media because, folks, they are back. They are back to their old selves. They are covering up a lot of stuff, not just from Joey, but more specifically now Kamala Harris, where they're deleting tweets, they're deleting posts, they're deleting news articles, they're saying things they never said before, even though we have video clips of them saying as much. We got a lot of stuff to cover for a Friday episode. Before we jump into anything, though, support us by hitting that like and subscribe button, as well as leaving us a comment down below when you're capable of doing so, but hitting that like button really does a service here to the show. Well, folks, it is Friday. Let's give a shout out to everybody in the chat. Devil's Advocate, Karen Cat Mom, Secret Agent, Mark B. We got a lot of people here. Patrick, Jason, Lily B. We have the usuals. It is Friday. Some people kind of stumble on in here. It is tough to wake up bright and early in the morning. Jerry's here. Good to see you. Neil, as always, and the family. My show mug is dirty, so we're drinking out of a Christmas mug today. We're in the spirits. Well, there's some interesting stuff coming out regarding a lot of people visiting. What's going on, Jackie? Visiting the site of the assassination attempt on former President Donald Trump. See, the Democrats don't care about this anymore. The media never really cared about it in the first place. The media, the Democrats, hell, they probably wanted to see Donald Trump dead and gone. So a guy just almost got assassinated 2 weeks ago. They don't really want to talk about it anymore. They don't want to get to the bottom of this whatsoever. I mean, we saw that in the congressional hearings, right? We saw in the congressional hearings, the Democrats, about half of them, would rather talk about gun control, get rid of your AR-15s as if that's going to stop any mass shootings because these idiots' heads aren't on straight. And they would rather talk about removing your Second Amendment rights than actually getting to the bottom line of like, hey, what failures were in place? Was this an inside job? What the hell's going on? Were the Iranians involved? They were. How much were they involved? How'd they get connected to this guy? Were they connected to anybody in the FBI or the Secret Service? Why was nobody on the roof? Why were there no drones? Why did you constantly deny this? Why did you constantly deny that? Yada, yada, yada. Democrats don't want to get to the bottom line of it. Only Republicans do. So what's kind of cool is we're getting video of different conservatives and Republicans, because that's clearly all who cares about getting to the answers here, going to the site. So you have a congressman here, but you also have him there. This is Representative Corey Mills and Eli Crane there with the Benny Johnson production team looking at the site itself. And so I want to show you a couple clips here of them documenting the site. And what's astonishing is, for the first time, as far as I'm aware, we're going to see almost the identical viewpoint of the assassinators' position looking at Donald Trump. So it's a pretty remarkable two clips here. So here's the first one. So there's the building that he shot from. And then you're going to see the rooftop where the snipers were. And I think this is where the second team was, maybe? Yeah, I think this is where the second sniper team was. Now, those two windows that are in that back building was where somebody easily could have watched that roof where the guy shot from. Because remember, the claim is that the local police that allegedly, who knows if this is true or not, we're hearing conflicting stories now, was supposed to be manning that roof, but they left their position because it was too hot. That's what we're told. It was too hot. Well, if that's the case, why couldn't you still cover that rooftop from where those two windows were? Because we've already seen a viewpoint from those windows, and you could cover the entire rooftop with nice air-conditioned building. I don't know if it's in fact air-conditioned, but you know what I mean. And you could have covered it that way. And we also heard reports, this comes out as far as yesterday, that the local police that spotted the guy or engaged him initially. I believe it was the one, the officers where one had to lift the guy up on the roof and then the guy was peering over and the assassin turned his gun on him. There was reports, take it with a grain of salt, that those guys were actually originally part of the traffic detail and they left their position of detailing traffic and coordinating all that to go and respond to this. So it's astonishing of the amount of failures that took place here. Folks, I have a really hard time believing a 20-year-old got onto a roof and basically shot a former president. It's really hard to believe that there wasn't an inside job here where somebody was told to stand down or somebody has, a few $100,000 in their bank account in present time. So here's Benny Johnson himself on the roof with his cell phone. And you can actually see still the outline of the shooter's body from all the blood and the blood stain still going down the roof here. They couldn't hose it all off. I mean, the blood is gone, but like the actual print of where the blood was is still there. And he's going to crouch down and you're going to see the exact position of what this shooter saw. Here we go. Make sure I don't blow your eardrums out first.
Is the trail of blood from Thomas Crooks still visible on the building where the assassin was able to shoot directly at President Trump from this exact position. You can see right there in the field, that's where President Trump is. I'm just on iPhone magnification. This is how close the president was.
Now, I want to spot out something here. If I don't know what magnification the guy had on the firearm that he shot with, I don't know. But let's just pretend it was a red dot. If you're looking right now through your sights with an AR-15 and a red dot, depending what type of red dot it is, let's pretend that guy was Trump out there in the field. I don't know if that's the exact position of where Trump would be, but let's pretend it was. That red dot would probably cover his entire head. So that's how lucky Trump got. If the guy had a red dot, I've heard rumors it was a red dot, that it wasn't anything crazy. And matter of fact, I've heard rumors that the red dot was actually misplaced on the AR-15, that it was too far forward, and that if you did the calculation, again, folks, take it with a grain of salt, okay? That the red dot was too far forward, and actually, if he would have accurately placed his red dot on his firearm, Trump might have not been here today. That the distance between where it should have been and where it was, in terms of on the firearm, would have been the difference between Trump's head getting blown off and hitting him in the ear. So, I don't know if that's true. I haven't seen the full schematic of the firearm he had, meaning the pictures, the images, and exactly everything. But yeah, maybe some of you can let me know in the live chat what he had in terms of a scope or red dot or flare. Let me know.
The assassin. This is 100 yards, one football field, right here. That is where the Secret Service sniper team was.
So it does give credibility that the sniper team that was on the far left building that's behind the tree, their view was obstructed, which is kind of weird that you would set up right there, knowing that some of your view is obstructed. On the last building is where the other sniper team was, and I believe that was the sniper team that possibly took him out. And that building back there was the first clip that we showed you guys, where the two congressmen were standing. They were both ex-military.
And this is where no one was. Or maybe someone was, but no law enforcement. Because that would have made the easiest shot on God's green earth.
It's just crazy that you can see that dude's whole body, like the outline. You can still see where the arm is on that right-hand side there, where the elbow was. I mean, that is a blood-stained print of a human being, my folks. I mean, you could see where the head was lying up there at the top.
Right here. Meanwhile, leaving the entire president exposed, there was supposed to be Secret Service right there.
Yep.
This was a window that has full view of the rooftop where Trump's would-be assassin, the man who shot Trump in the face, in the head, and killed an innocent man, and a good man, stood. And that's where President Trump was, right there. Trail of blood? Still.
Crazy. Wild, isn't that? Don't worry, guys. The Democrats and the media want to get to the bottom line of this, which is why you're seeing it posted all over the news, right? Wrong. You're not seeing it anywhere on the news. We got some pretty cool stuff to show you a little bit later, folks. Wait till more people pop in, and then we'll make sure that we show you it. We got some photographs I want to show you guys. Really cool. I found out about it yesterday. So some other news here is it's all surrounding Kamala Harris being called the border czar. The reason why the White House wants to get away from this, of her being in the leadership position of solving the border crisis, is because she didn't solve it. She didn't do anything about it. Matter of fact, it's only got exacerbated and worse under her, over her umbrella of covering it. So 6 Democrats, surprisingly, helped pass House resolution condemning VP Harris as border czar. So GOP-led House resolution was passed in bipartisan fashion on Thursday to condemn Vice President Kamala Harris as border czar and the Biden administration for its inability to curb illegal immigration. The reason why I wanted to lead with this is it's weird because they're playing it out, meaning the media, the Democrat Party, holistically, is saying, hey, she was never the border czar. Nobody ever labeled this, even though we have video proof. We have congressional House of Representative proof as well that we showed yesterday during the live stream of the White House press briefing that she was, in fact, the border czar. She is, and they want to get away from it because of the terrible handling she's done in terms of the border. Well, 6 Democrats surprisingly joined 214 Republicans in voting for the measure. Another 196 Democrats voted against it. So you have Representative Elise Stefanik, who we've seen here on the show, and we like her. The chairwoman of the House GOP conference introduced a resolution on Tuesday after President Joe Biden ended his re-election bid to endorse VP Kamala Harris as his successor. Harris has since gathered the support of enough delegates to win the Democrat Party's nomination, which we said was wild here, without ever getting a single vote in this country. She got the Democratic Party's nomination in 24 hours. Yeah, no, there was no deep state involved, you guys. Yeah, they did this grassroots is what they said. That all the funding, the $250 million, it was just all grassroots donation. At no point where it's these billionaires utilizing these average Joe Americans' names on this. Did anybody see the James O'Keefe footage of them going up and seeing these people finding out that somehow they donated $250,000? Did anybody see that footage? It was remarkable how back in the day, James O'Keefe showed how there was this organization that they're claiming to get all this money from and everything else. And what they were doing were they were funneling it into these average Joe Americans' bank accounts. Let's see if I can find it for you here. Here we go. I'm just going to show you a snippet of this. And these people are like, well, I didn't donate $300,000. So what they're doing is they're taking these billionaires' money and they're funneling it through average people like you and I. Here we go.
Act Blue, the Democratic fundraising organization, who told us that the group was having a secret meeting at a Boston hotel. Well, we went to it. The meeting took place at a high-end hotel called the Colonnade, so we checked into a room. The first thing I did was strike up a few conversations with Act Blue staffers. I told them I was a friendly donor, and I didn't mind if the organization used my name and address to launder money into candidate coffers.
I'm a supporter. I'm a donor to you guys. I gave you $500, so.
That's sweet.
Yeah,
Cool.
yeah.
Awesome.
You can use my grandmother too. You can use her name if you want.
That's cool.
You remember our stories from earlier this year about ActBlue's fundraising practices.
I don't
We found
think so,
a handful
Dizzy.
of donors who gave small amounts to ActBlue, but when ActBlue reported the donations to the Federal Elections Commission, something didn't add up. We wanted some answers. We spoke to Nancy Duden, the retiree from Maryland, who
Check
said
this
she
out.
only donated a couple of $100 to ActBlue since January. How much does ActBlue claim she has donated this year? More than $16,000. Nancy wasn't the only seemingly unaware retiree being used to mask these
Look at
donations.
this one.
Garland Riggs, an older gentleman who lives outside of Washington, D.C., says there's no way he has given ActBlue $230,000. And
Yo. He's like, can you imagine the look on this guy's face? Go, what the fuck? What did you say? $230,000? Oh God, I'm crippled. I can never recover from this. He didn't donate $230,000. What they did was they took a billionaire's money and sat there and funneled it through this guy. Illegal. This is how I believe, and clearly so does James O'Keefe, Kamala Harris somehow got grassroots money of $250 million. I had to sit there and think about, was it $250 million? It was.
In the past 4 years. Carolyn Lenz from Tucson, who apparently given ActBlue $170,000 in the past several years. But luckily, we were able to make contact with some ActBlue staffers while on the inside. One staffer told me to talk to her communications director.
Hi. How you doing? You with ActBlue?
Yeah.
Hi, I'm James.
Hi. Nice to meet you. I'm Kathleen.
James O'Keefe.
Okay.
Do you know who I am? We did a story in March about ActBlue, and they were given thousands of contributions to different people and different names.
Yeah, sorry, I can't.
How do you explain that to people?
I can't speak to that.
How do you explain that to people
Above
who...
my pay grade.
Above your pay
sorry.
grade?
But
Thanks.
we do have a, you can reach out to our
We've tried.
locations.
We've tried.
Our source within ActBlue witnessed all types of activity inside.
Folks, isn't that crazy? But it's grassroots, guys. No, yeah. There's no deep state involved. There's no billionaires involved in this. There's no elites trying to sit there and puppet out a new candidate because Joe Biden's polling numbers weren't good whatsoever. And the Democrats knew he wasn't going to win against Donald Trump. And the Democrats probably knew that there was something going on health-wise with this guy. And it's astonishing that the media is covering it up. The White House won't admit the fact that Joe Biden is not there. The media won't say it either. And now they're just back to their old selves. We'll get to it, folks. The media, when I show you this clip later on of the media puppeting out there and sitting there covering for Kamala Harris, it's going to piss you guys off. Don't worry. We got a freaking, the clip is probably the best clip, one of the best we've ever shown here. So the resolution strongly condemns the Biden administration and its border czar, Kamala Harris's failure to secure the United States border. It further aims that the American people deserve elected officials who understand the gravity of the crisis at the border and who will execute the policies to fix the border crisis. Well, what do you mean, elected officials? Kamala Harris wasn't elected, guys? Whoa, what? That's not supposed to happen that way, is it? Kamala Harris is supposed to be elected, but she didn't. She never got a single vote. And the media won't sit there and highlight that. Of course not. The media is back to their 2016 selves. That's where they are. You're going to see 2016, 2020 mainstream media. So Gutfeld destroys Kamala Harris's record here, saying it's most egregious and dangerous political cover-up. I don't think this is the most dangerous and political cover-up. I think covering up Joe Biden's cognitive health and the fact that he is off his rocker and not there, I think that's the biggest cover-up in American history, as far as I'm aware. There's a lot of conspiracy theories out there. Again, we do a whole second channel of supernatural stuff, aliens, UFOs, that whole shadeal. No. This is bigger than that. She lied to the American people, aiding the most egregious and dangerous political cover-up in American history. Now, she's a part of the cover-up, right, of Joe Biden's brain not working. In the same way, FBI Director Christopher Wray sat there and told Congress that, I think it was with Matt Gaetz, that no, his meetings with Joe Biden was completely professional. Nobody was asking you if your meetings were professional, right? Because professional could be like, well, everybody had on their suit and ties. I mean, Joe's was a little messed up with, baby spit all over it and kind of some old milk stains. But other than that, it was all professional. You mean the rumors that we heard this guy wandering off in meetings wasn't real, Chris? You mean that this guy was sharp? One of the sharpest presidents you've ever seen? There was never a moment of memory lapse in this guy or drooling into a drip tray or maybe dozing off in a meeting that we've heard rumors of as well. None of that, Chris. No, but it was all professional. They use their words very specifically because they know they can get out of it, and thus they wouldn't be technically lying to Congress under oath. No question was about him being professional or the meetings being normal. The question was, have you ever experienced a president, being off a little bit, but he's going to sit there and lie. So he should be out too. Kamala Harris, they're all part of it, folks. They're all part of the cover-up. So during his Fox News show, the Gutfeld show, I love Gutfeld. I think his show is freaking hilarious, by the way. His monologue at the beginning just is a riot. Well, left versus right, Democrat versus Republican thing now that President Joe Biden has dropped out of the race. He said, in reality, it's the media narrative machine versus reality. That is correct, and it always has been. It always has been. Remember, the whole Hunter Biden laptop wasn't reality, you guys. We're all conspiracy theorists for peddling that. And if we were to peddle it, you would be deplatformed, censored, shadow banned on social media, and even places such as YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. They would go as far as to ban you in some cases, depending on what you said and if they liked it or not. Well, this whole media and the narrative they're promulgating is they've gone so far now to start removing things from their own sites that we covered in yesterday's show, specifically Axios, saying, oops, we were wrong. She was never the border czar, even though in Congress, they denoted her as the border czar. The own mainstream media themselves on video also said as much, that she's the border czar. And all of a sudden they're flipping the script as if like we're idiots and we can't look back at old video of them calling her that. Or the fact that the president in documentation, on video, in audio, all said himself that she is the border czar and that her handling of the border is supposed to be the one which is supposed to be handling the border. But all of a sudden this is all fake now. Like as if we're idiots. I mean, that party has to just think their base is just so stupid. It is so disrespectful. And the fact that they go along with it, the Democrats are like, oh yeah, this is good stuff, is really, really a head-spinning thing to me. I can't wrap my head around it. I've tried. So now what you'll get is a propagandist image of a competent, inspiring executive, which is meant to cover up the harsh truth of a deceiving incompetent. Correct. The strategy is simple. Fill the shelf space with lies so there's no room for anything else. I mean, you can't even sit there and criticize her. So what they've done here is not only done some Orwellian stuff by removing articles, changing what's actually been said before, trying to play it off as if they never said it, to quite frankly, sitting there and going, if you say anything negative about Kamala Harris, anything, you are deemed a racist. That's why I said we are back to literally 2016, 2020 again. This is the same script. We're not shocked from the Bald Brad show. We were months ahead of this, were we not, guys? Did we not say as a community here that this is what the media was going to do? Did we not say that they were going to revert back to their own selves? Did we not say that all the foozery is going to come out again, that they're going to be cheating once again, they're going to be pulling some shenanigans once again? Well, here we are. Folks, we thought it would happen in August. Well, let's be honest. I thought it was going to happen in August, maybe September. Nope, it's July. Dude, we haven't even seen anything yet. If they're pulling this, like, they can't go full blown. This seems like it's full blown, right? This seems like it's like, whoa, they've gone really far on this. No. We got 100 days. That's a long time in the media. Think about it. Trump was just shot like 2 weeks ago. Gone. Not in the media anymore. Don't want to talk about it. The assassination attempt. Don't want to talk about it. They would rather cover up for Kamala Harris and be her puppet. Just again, we got a clip later on. Wait till we get to it. Things are so bad, you guys. Things are just so bad, and Democrats want more of it. Folks, things are so bad that champagne sales have dropped. Nobody's celebrating. Remember how when Donald Trump came into office, he's like, you're going to win so much. You're going to be basking in champagne. He didn't win that, but he didn't say that, but he did say like, you're going to be winning so much, you're going to be tired of winning. You're going to be buying champagne off the shelves. It's going to be flying off the shelves. So champagne sales for the first half of the 2024 have dropped worldwide. And one industry executive thinks the reason is simply because there's less joy in the world and a lack of celebration. Well, it could be lack of celebration. The fact that people can't afford champagne. Everything's so expensive. You got to cut. There you go. Mark says in the chat. I see you, Mark. It's real bad, Brad. Absolutely. There's a little bit of rhyme bad, Brad. So champagne is quite linked with celebration, happiness, etc. That's correct. Maybe the current global situation being geopolitical and macroeconomic does not lead people to cheer up and to open bottles of champagne. What are you going to cheer up? You're going to be super stoked. I mean, like Democrats are clearly for the 20% rise in grocery prices, almost a 50% increase in gas prices. Woo! Party! Yes, it's awesome! Clearly they love it, you guys. I say clearly they love it because does any of their actions say anything different? I mean, don't get me wrong. You'll talk to a Democrat, and of course, and I really do mean Democrat here because they're the ones that are going to vote for Joe Biden. We know the progressive left are all about it. They're all about the socialism and the communism, all those things. The Democrats, though, if you were to talk to one, like your friend, family, they'll say, "No, I don't like the grocery prices. I don't like paying higher taxes. I used to do taxes. Never in my life. I don't know a single. All my friends still do are in accounting, not all of them, but some of them. Tax accountants, work for a firm. I've asked them, have you ever met a Democrat that's walked into your office to do taxes and goes, I want to make sure I owe the max amount of money to the government? You know, the same people that vote for higher taxes that screw the rest of us over? Yeah, those people never walk in and go, I want to make sure I owe the max amount of money. Screw my refund. You know what? Just make sure, don't even bother with the deductions. Don't even bother with the credits. I want to make sure I owe the massive amount of money to the government. They've never said that. So it's funny how they vote for higher taxes, but when it comes to April 15th and before, they don't want to make sure they owe taxes, right? It's all, hey, I want to make sure I get my refund. I want to make sure I get as much money back as possible. Why? You voted for it. You want to hire. So it's funny when push comes to shove and you have a conversation. I don't like these high gas prices, man. I could really pay my mortgage right now. Oh, electricity bill or this or that. You voted for it. You voted for it. Yeah, Snarf. Anthony has our book in the background. Pretty cool, huh? Anthony Brian Logan, big podcaster, over 1 million subscribers, has our book in the background. Yes, sir. So it's just interesting that Democrats, when they say, they'll say verbally, what's going on, Javier? They'll say verbally that they're not for higher taxes, or sorry, they're for higher taxes, but, they'll keep voting it in. They'll keep voting it in. Some kind of sporadic news here. Before we jump into that, let's get into what I wanted to show you guys. Since I think most of the community's here now, we had some really cool stuff that happened. So we were all here for the RNC. We streamed day 1 and day 4. And through streaming, Rumble was the RNC's main streaming platform. And Rumble had a huge presence at the RNC, right? Donald Trump Jr. was there. Donald Trump himself was there. The entire Trump family. You have Dan Bongino, who we love here at the show. We freaking love Dan. Russell Brand was there. A lot of creators and influencers were there. And we have a content coordinator from Rumble named Dylan, who we love here at the show. Can we give Dylan a shout out, not just in the YouTube chat, but in the Rumble chat as well? I'm going to give Dylan a shout out myself. Shout out to Dylan. I want to give him a shout out. This guy is amazing. Shout out to Dylan. Dylan is somebody, you guys, that I've met here on Rumble. And honestly, as somebody that works with the public and companies back when I was an accountant, this guy is sharp. He's with it. The amount of questions that were specific and he answered like that on the spot, there was not. I was talking to my wife about this. We were going out last night, and I said, she works for a big company, and so we know what it's like to not get your questions answered. This guy answered every single question in detail and even walked me through stuff. His response time is like that, and one of the nicest guys I've honestly seriously ever met. So he emailed me this, you guys. Let's pull this up for you. And man, it's one of the coolest things. So he was at the RNC, and check this out, folks. We were at the RNC live, and the guy went as far as to even shout out our channel. So there we are on the left there, live streaming at the RNC next to Steven Crowder, who is one of the top, probably the top 5 podcasts for conservatives and Republicans in the middle. And then you got the RNC stream on the far right with Donald Trump Jr. on the screen. How freaking cool is that? A small channel like ours gets spotlighted. And, for him to go out of his way like that, that meant a lot to me. So, he was there and he's a fan of the show as well. And he even told Dan Bongino's team about our channel. that speaks volumes. You know what I mean? That meant a lot to me because we're a small channel, guys. I'm not big. I do this by myself. And for him to go out of his way and say, hey, check this out. This guy's show's pretty cool. I mean, to do that, guys, that speaks volumes. So shout out to Dylan for doing that. Freaking pretty cool, right? So there's the Rumble studio where a lot of people doing interviews, and Dylan was there doing his thing. And then there's the show, man. Isn't that freaking awesome? So right there, I mean, this was like one of the coolest things I've seen since doing this. Look at us, and thanks to you guys for helping us build up. As much as, yeah, we're there, this is really all of us as a community. And I wanted to make sure I gave Dylan a shout out. We got approval to show this. And it just meant a lot to me. Been a long time coming, but look at us up there with the bigwigs. Kind of made a joke to my wife of, on the left, you'll see a guy with 700 followers on Rumble. And then on the right of him, you got a guy with like 2 million. So that was pretty cool, man. That's pretty cool. Also, I had to reflect on myself that you got to be careful what you say because you never know who's watching. So, but anyways, again, shout out to Dylan for really helping us over here. Rumble is our main hub, and they're taking care of us over there. So I wanted to make sure that all of you gave him a shout out. He is a fan, just like all of you guys. He is a patriot, just like all of you guys. So thank you so much for giving him a shout out in the chat. I don't know if he could see the YouTube chat, but he sees the Rumble chat, and he's always watching. So I wanted to make sure I showed you guys that, because I thought you guys would think it would be cool too. You know what I mean? A lot of you were here since the beginning. So we got more news to cover. We're not going anywhere, but I want to make sure I highlight that kind of when everybody was here. Jason, thank you so much for the $5. Thank you so much, brother. Keeping the lights on here for us. Let's give a freaking salute to the Patriot. Jason, thank you so much, man. I appreciate that. If you guys are interested, Rumble's headquarters is on my route, man. The internet make the world so small. The internet, yep, absolutely, sir. Absolutely. So let's continue here with the news. We have Disney, I mean, there's a lot of this woke stuff coming out, and there was an email from a fellow patriot from Canada. I have yet to respond to him, but it's Danny. Danny tries to make the live, but the lives are a little bit early. He's from Canada in the same way Shib's from the UK. Look, we got patriots that may not be Americans, but they're still patriots, and they even understand the freedom of speech and the right to bear arms and all those other things. And one thing he talked about was just how woke Canada is getting. And Canada is kind of like our top hat where, yeah, we keep them safe. I mean, hell, we have more people in the state of California than the entire population of Canada. But we still need them as well. Do you know what I mean? They're part of our allyship. And what's happening here is Trudeau is completely destroying their country. In the same way, we wrote an entire book, right? They're having the same problem as us. They have their own lefties there. And so the left is destroying, I'm going to say California, which is true, but the United States of America, our country, but they're also destroying Canada up there. So Danny, I want to give you a shout out, brother. Thank you so much for watching the show from our friends up north, and fully understand you, man. I get it. Canada is important. Canada is very important to us. And it's sad to see what the LGBTQ, LMNOP, alphabet soup community is doing to basically every institution and country out there. And so you got Disney here. We haven't talked about Disney in a while. The UK sucks too. Sorry, Shib. I mean, hey, the left is destroying every country they can. Disney employees created a video here to pressure their colleagues to support other sex change attempts. What? Well, LGBT employees have assembled an internal advocacy organization that works to embed the LGBT agenda deeper in the company's content, a new undercover investigation from O'Keefe Media reveals. Now, usually O'Keefe's videos are kind of long, so we'll just kind of talk about it in terms of article. But an internal program at the Walt Disney Company called Authentically Me, Gender Expression and Transitioning, compels employees to accept and encourage their coworkers' sex change attempts. Jesus. That's dangerous, because say you're struggling with something like that. It is a struggle, right? It's a mental thing. That you're going to go out and get a confirmation bias from people. A friend does not lie to you. You know what I mean? Like, sometimes you see these people wearing these skimpy clothes, but they're a little bit bigger, and you probably shouldn't be wearing that outside. And I always tell my wife, I go, doesn't they have like a friend or family member that tells them, like, hey, maybe you shouldn't go out in this? That like you're you know, your chubbiness is bulging out the sides. Like, maybe you shouldn't wear that. Now, if you're comfortable in your body and that's what you want to sport, like, hey, more power to you, rock on. But at least did somebody have the wherewithal to tell you, like, hey, maybe you shouldn't, you know? Like, is that really a friend that's going to sit there and be like, yeah, you know, that's okay for you to chop off your pee-pee? Probably not. And the fact that you have coworkers affirming that could lead to something. For example, you guys, if you had like a friend or a coworker that was schizophrenic and then was like hearing people and they're having conversations with nobody that's there, would you go, hey, yeah, I want, you know, let me hop into that conversation with you and start playing along with the person's delusions that they're seeing and hearing somebody? Is that the right thing to do to affirm that, yeah, that person's there? I see them too. Oh, yeah, what are they saying? No, that's not the right thing to do. And honestly, that's effed up. That's weird. Don't be doing that. You know what I mean? Jay Johnson, thank you so much for the $20. Thank you. Keeping the lights on here, as we've always said, allowing us to push forward with conservative as well as Republican ideology amongst out there as we're fighting the big tech ourselves. Thank you so much for the $20. That's a lot of money. I mean, heck, even $5 is a lot of money. You know what I mean? Especially with Bidenomics. I mean, people can't even afford champagne. So that's greatly appreciated. Thank you, guys. Donations are really heartfelt here. That means a lot. Thank you. Well, if you're looking to support a colleague who's transitioning, listen to what they're asking of you and show in your actions that you've heard them. One way to be a good ally to your transgender non-binary cast members is to use the pronoun and the name they have given you. It's important to be humble because you're going to mess up. Everybody messes up. Everybody messes up. And what's important is what you do next. I invite you to be our allies. You don't have to be LGBTQIA+ to hold our hands. I mean, Disney has not woken up to the fact that this is just completely crippling their company. They have not woken up to the fact. I mean, this is why this show, I think, is important. And by the way, many of you don't know, we were actually highlighted on Project Veritas in a good way. We had like 5 seconds of fame over there where they actually did highlight us for a little bit, which was kind of cool. So James O'Keefe saw our stuff way early on, which was freaking awesome. But Disney has these executives that are at the highest levels promulgating this woke ideology into every fabric of that corporation. And what's sad is they're not doing anything about it, like whatsoever. They're totally cool with pushing this upon their kids and losing money. And that's what I've always said is these corporations need to wake up to the fact that they don't care about your company. They don't care about making it better. They care about an ideology, and that ideology is being pushed and force-fed down all our throats, and we don't want any part of it, but they're going to sit there and do it anyways. And these companies and these corporations haven't figured it out. So rather than removing the people at the top, they're removing the people at the bottom. Isn't that insane? Well, I mean, it kind of makes sense why they wouldn't remove the people at the top, because all the people at the top are the ones that want to promulgate this whole thing. Just wild stuff. I see on the live chat, Disney needs to stop grooming kids. Absolutely correct, sir. Absolutely correct. It is really weird. Really weird. Well, let's get back to a little bit of the borders. I want to make sure I kind of had a little spritzy of other news in there. There's a clip here of Michael Knowles on the Piers Morgan Uncensored. We're not going to watch the entire thing because it's an hour. But it's the conversation surrounding Kamala Harris being the border czar. And this is kind of one of the big things that's being spoken of, as we mentioned earlier in the show, because the media is trying to remove the aspect in conjunction with the Democrat Party, in conjunction with the deep state, in conjunction with these bureaucrats that are in government, trying to remove the idea that she's not the border czar. Again, I can't emphasize this enough. We have the video clips. We have the receipts of her being called the freaking border czar by the House of Representatives, Congress. We showed it yesterday live, the actual document. Not to mention, Joe Biden has sit there and put her forth as the border czar. You had the media in clips and audio and video calling her the border czar. All of a sudden, it's not real. So here's this clip from Piers Morgan.
There's no doubt the dynamic of this race has changed. Do you think it's going to change the result?
I don't think so. I don't think you're really seeing that in the polls. In the polls, Trump is still looking pretty good, especially in the swing states, and especially when you consider the distinction between the Electoral College and the popular vote. I think this is why you have some leading Democrats who are saying that they actually don't want to be the vice president. They don't want to be the running mate. They don't really want to challenge Kamala. And so there is some new energy. I totally agree with that. But Kamala has some major vulnerabilities here. As you pointed out, Piers, in the previous segment, Kamala was the most liberal member of the Senate when she was there. Your previous guest, Harry Sisson, said something that wasn't true. He said that she was not for Medicare for all. She was. You can see it on her Medium blog page from 2019, My Plan for Medicare for All. And she was far to the left on so many other issues. The other big vulnerability is that though the Democrats want to deny it now, in March of 2021, President Biden said that Kamala Harris was going to be in charge of the border policy. So, they're trying to change their news stories on it. But he said, I'm putting her in the lead of immigration. That has been the most monumental failure of the Biden administration. And it ranks toward the top of people's issues.
Someone did a big mashup, and it had all the liberal commentators and anchors at CNN, MSNBC, and so on, all denying yesterday that she'd ever been called the border czar. And then someone had clipped up evidence that their own networks had indeed called her the border czar. And I think that's a really significant debate to be had, because it's indisputable that she was depicted that way. And there's no doubt if you then accept that she was the border czar, that her management of the border as the czar has been a complete and utter disaster.
There you go.
Of course. Piers, I actually have Biden's exact words. I just finished broadcasting my own show, and I even second-guessed myself. I said, maybe I misunderstood. I seem to recall every news organization reporting this, but maybe I was wrong. No, he said on March 24th, I have asked her, the VP today, to lead our efforts with Mexico and the Northern Triangle, and the countries that are going to need help in stemming the movement of so many folks, stemming the migration to our southern border. It's not her full responsibility and job, but she's leading the effort. And he even turns to her, he says, Madam Vice President, thank you. I gave you a tough job. So it is a tough job. She totally failed, and they got to answer for it.
Yeah, I mean, there's no doubt she was put in charge of solving the border crisis. We've just heard it from Biden's own voice. Why are people on the left trying to deny that?
We're not trying to deny anything. We have a prosecutor against a predator, and now the oldest person to ever run for president, Donald Trump, who, by the way, did not do a 180 after surviving the assassination attempt. He did a 360. He's exactly the same person he was. You're talking about Axios. Axios referred to her as the border czar, and then Axios later corrected itself yesterday. Look, if I'm the Democrats, I'd run on the border compared to Trump. Sure. You know why? Because Joe Biden and Kamala Harris proposed one of the strictest immigration reform bills, that they had the bipartisan unity with conservatives.
Do you guys see why I show this now? This is important, because you're seeing in real time the gaslighting is back at a whole nother level. Not only did they sit there, and we'll continue, not only did they sit there and gaslight us the fact that Joe Biden is sharp, up until the fact of the debate, and even after the debate, the spokesmen and women of the White House were still promulgating that. We showed the footage. Now, this dude is on national television, mainstream television, saying, well, I think that they should actually run against Donald Trump on the border. What? What? These people are voting. I'm telling you, it's turning into the party of just don't give two F's about what happens. There's no like foundation in terms of a belief of, like, it's kind of wrong to sit there and gaslight people. You know what I mean? It's kind of wrong. I'm not saying Republicans don't do it, but dude, this has turned into like a whole nother level in terms of gaslighting. The Hunter Biden laptop wasn't real. The Russia PP hoax wasn't real. That literally wasn't real. The Hunter Biden laptop was real. The Russia PP hoax was just completely made up. The whole Russian thing was completely made up. We spent $40+ million on that investigation of Robert Mueller. Didn't turn up on anything. And by the way, FBI paid off the guy to say, hey, can you tell us like what you heard? One guy started an entire thing. One dude. And by the way, Dan Bongino's book called Follow the Money, fabulous book. Hard to follow just because there's so many people that are involved. But if you can really get down the base story, he does a phenomenal job. Again, his book's called Follow the Money. Really great book to purchase to get that whole shindig.
And guess who tanked it? Donald Trump. Republicans said that Donald Trump called them up and decided to tank this border bill, this bipartisan border bill, because he knew it would help Joe Biden. So a person who does not care about security and the border, that's Donald Trump. Also,
Wow.
as of today, the lowest border crossings, even lower than Donald Trump, is happening in what? The Biden-Harris administration. And talking about immigration and the border, guess who wants to deport up to 15 million people illegally? Donald Trump. He's running on it. Guess who wants to create camps? Donald Trump. So I'm perfectly fine with liberals and this growing multiracial, multicultural coalition. Like you said, Piers, there's enthusiasm, there's excitement, especially with women, with young people, with people of color against Donald Trump. And I don't think Donald Trump can stop being Donald Trump. It just took 3 days, and we saw the RNC conference, the first 30 minutes of the speech. He was doing pretty well. And then he did 9,000 words off script. And he talked about Hannibal Lecter, and he mocked Nancy Pelosi with the hammer. He called her crazy. He did that post on Truth Social. He misspelled poll with poll. He called lying Kamala. And then Mike Johnson, Pierce, the leader of the House Republicans, had to tell his party to not be racist. When you're off the gate starting like that, you're on the losing tip. That's my prediction.
All right, Elizabeth. There's a lot to unpack there from what as you'd imagine.
I kind of want to keep going a little bit. I haven't seen this.
Valiant attempt at hiding the fact that Kamala Harris said to the world, "Don't come in," and
I
then
don't know
8
who
million
that dude is,
people
Cowboy.
have probably
I don't
come
know.
in. By any yardstick, whether you're Democrat or Republican, the Biden administration's handling of the southern border has been a fiasco, and her name is on that.
He is
It
drinking
was
the
her
Kool-Aid,
job,
Jeff.
as
Yep.
we heard from
Big time.
Michael there, from the words of President Biden. She was the border czar.
She was. And I believe you said 8 million. People believe it's actually possible that it's much higher than that. Look, we can go back and forth for hours and debate the fact that she
Exactly,
was the
Smurf.
border czar or wasn't the border czar. The fact is that people are unhappy with the border, right? Polling shows that people are unhappy with the state of this country, and the border and immigration is one of those main issues on their mind. The current administration, Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, take full responsibility for that. I don't think anyone is going to believe that Kamala and Joe Biden are not responsible for this. And I think it's silly to go back and forth and claim something otherwise. For us, it's simply about policy and it's about the facts. And I understand going back and forth about personality and Donald Trump versus Kamala Harris and what attacks will come out and what won't. But the fact is, today, the American people say they're unhappy with several policies from this administration. They're unhappy with several things going on in this country and around the world. And this administration has full blame for all of that.
There you go.
Okay, Michael Knowles, there's no doubt, notwithstanding all this, that the race has changed in the sense of a lot more energy for the Democrats, a lot more youth in their candidate than they had before. And it's going to be, I would imagine, it's going to be a closer race than it could have been. Donald Trump, as we've heard from other guests today, one of his biggest opponents is himself and his mouth. How careful does he have to be, do you think, in terms of how he talks to Kamala Harris? Particularly if, for example, they do get it on a debate stage in September. Because if we thought the last debate was electric and consequential in the way it went down, you can only imagine how big it's going to be with Donald Trump and Kamala Harris standing there for 90 minutes. So how careful does he have to be?
Trump needs to change the way that he speaks based on whether he's speaking to a man or a woman. Of course, this is true. Trump knows this. He ran against a woman in 2016, and he beat a woman in 2016. And Republicans, unlike our Democrat friends, do know the difference between men and women. So, of course, he's going to have to use different rhetoric. But I'm not all concerned about it. I think he's going to do just fine. When they tried to hammer him on rude language to women in 2016, of course, he said, I only use that language about Rosie O'Donnell. And he sort of laughed it off. And it seemed to work out just fine. Meanwhile, you're going to hear the rhetoric of Kamala Harris. She's going to, it seems, continue this campaign theme that Trump is an existential threat to democracy that Biden has been pushing. That, of course, established the premise that would justify the assassination attempt. So I think that's perilous rhetorical ground for the Democrats. And then you're going to hear a lot of vague rhetoric. The famous line from Kamala, the only one we hear repeated over and over, is that she wants to imagine what can be unburdened by what has been. You saw in Kamala's first campaign commercial, it's all just about freedom in the abstract. Yes, she runs on abortion. Yes, she runs on guns, issues that she can always harp on in the future. But she doesn't run on anything else that is specific because, her record on the economy, on her administration's record on national security, on the border, on foreign affairs, it's so dismal. She doesn't seem to have a vision that resonates with people. That's why when she ran for president, she had to get out of the race before the first primary.
Exactly right. Exactly right. And that brings us into yesterday's White House press briefing, where Peter Doocy sat there and got in a heated exchange with White House press secretary on the border crisis. So here's Peter Doocy saying Democrats on Capitol Hill handed us this card, which we'll get to in one moment. And then he goes into, so the first one says Vice President Harris was never appointed border czar. There's never been such a position. It doesn't even exist. Why are Democrats so sensitive about vice president and the border? So I'm going to pause it midway through because I want to talk about that card. Okay, that card's very important because it gets into the main theme of the show here an hour in, that the media is sitting there utilizing this card to push a narrative. And I got the video to prove it. So here's the initial question from Peter Doocy.
Democrats on Capitol Hill are being handed this card with talking points about the vice president and the border. Do you know who's handing this out?
I have no idea. You probably should ask her campaign.
Okay. So you see that card he's holding. I want to show you the card, and then I'm going to show you the video. So here's the card. It says Vice President was never appointed border czar. Okay, there has never been such a position. It doesn't exist. These are talking points that was handed out to the media and others to promulgate this. This is wild. Border czar title invented by Republicans and press repeats. Why not asked to lead on the admin's immigration or border enforcement policies? And it goes on and on, right? Border crossings by migrants from Guatemala, Honduras, and El Salvador, the countries in Vice President Harris' root causes portfolio, have decreased dramatically in recent years. Isn't it amazing that they sit there and they cause a problem, and then we're supposed to sit there and kiss their feet? The fact that they somewhat chiseled away at the problem, which it's still bad. They burned down your house, folks, and all they build back was the foundation. You still have no house. You have nowhere to go. So here's the video clip, you guys. This is a freaking phenomenal mashup of how the media is using this card already. Folks, it's not even 24 hours between when this card was given. You're talking, less than 10 hours turnaround time. Watch how this video on the left will highlight exactly the media using these talking points in real time. Here we go.
She was never actually border czar.
Border czar, which was not something that was formally conveyed upon her.
She's been labeled incorrectly by some members of the right as the border czar.
Republicans named her the border czar.
Republicans have always exaggerated what her job was at the border.
Republicans, again, have labeled her the border czar.
But that's not exactly what President Biden asked her to do.
She was never put in charge of the border.
That wasn't actually her task.
Not to secure it, but to address the underlying roots of migration.
She was charged with leading the administration's efforts to address the root causes of migration.
The root causes of migration to the U.S.
The root causes.
Root causes.
Root causes. The root causes.
Root causes
of immigration.
We also want to point out that right now apprehension numbers continue to decrease in our country, especially over the last few months.
And I just want to note that border crossings have been going down.
And illegal border crossings are lower right now.
Migrant crossings continue to drop.
Border crossings are way down.
Border crossings are down.
Folks, we said it was going to happen. And here we are. And it's still 100 days out from the election. And you have seen nothing yet. To bring you back, they're already now at the point of removing things from media, pretending like things never happened. Not just sitting there gaslighting you, right? But they're physically going out there and removing things, saying that they never even said in the first place. Like somebody mentioned Axios, but Axios did mention it. And they mentioned it correctly that she is the border czar. They're trying to sit there and do some Orwellian stuff, man. And it is some next level. Rather than sitting there using these talking points, why is the media not questioning her on the border? What has she done to fix it? Okay, let's say she's not even the border czar. Let's just pretend she's not. What has she still done to fix the border, a part of the administration? What has she done that actually has been good? There's nothing. She has nothing to run on in the same way Joe Biden did. You know what they have to run on? How terrible Trump is. That's what they have to run on. How bad is Trump? He's misogynistic. He's so terrible. He's an existential threat. Wouldn't you be an existential threat? The fact that you don't have a single vote that actually put you in this position, isn't that a threat to democracy? But I'll tell you what, folks, the fake news media are on overdrive to sit there and cover up the fact that Kamala Harris had a coup and forcefully removed and paired Joe Biden out of the race.
Ask you, the Minnesota GOP is holding a press conference this afternoon to criticize you for your support a couple of years ago, before you were the vice president, for something called the Minnesota Freedom Fund that was really set up to help those who were arrested in the aftermath of the George Floyd riots, help them get out. It's since been sort of morphed into something else and has been used to help people get out who've been accused of many other crimes. Do you have any thoughts about this?
Well, first of all, I am a child of parents who marched for civil rights in the 1960s in America. And I have always been and will always be a supporter of peaceful protests. Many peaceful protests over the history of our country have led to an expansion of rights and an expansion of civil rights. So that's where I stand on peaceful protest. And I think that, unfortunately, what we're seeing is people are playing political games right now. We're 18 days away from midterms. And we have sadly not seen a lack of misinformation and disinformation. And I think this is another one of those examples.
There you go. Now, this was from the 2022 campaign. But you guys, that was real, by the way. Like, what they were speaking about. Let me sure I pause it. They have this here. So this was posted by Elon Musk, and CBS lies about Trump lying. So they were saying Trump falsely accuses Harris of donating to Minnesota Freedom Fund, bailing out dangerous criminals. She did. She did do that. And so Trump goes, yeah, this is what she did. And you just heard it on the news talking about it in 2022. And now we're just sitting here saying, yeah, that never happened. What? And what's sad is people are going to sit there and go, Trump's a liar. She never did that. She wasn't the border czar. She never funded these people. Right? These psychos, right? These big babies that are going out and they're protesting, burning down our freaking cities and all these other things. Yeah, these people. Dude, we have guys, if the media is doing this again and saw how much of an uphill climb it was in 2016 and 2020, can you imagine how it is already with shadow banning conservatives, deplatforming conservatives, going and actually manipulating the media narrative, and people are going to totally buy in? Trump's a liar. Trump's a liar. No, you guys are liars. And you can show them till you're blue in the face, all the receipts, and it doesn't do anything for them. It doesn't do anything whatsoever. So that was the card. I just want to reference this so that you guys know what's coming up here with the media, and already is. And let's continue with Peter Doocy and the border czar aspect of the situation at the border.
Oh, the first one says Vice President Harris was never appointed border czar. There's never been such a position. It doesn't exist. Why are Democrats so sensitive about the vice president and the border?
Why are Republicans so sensitive about actually not owning up to them getting in the way of a border deal? Why? Why won't they own up to that? Why won't they own up to the last president told them not to move forward? It was a bipartisan deal on just right there, available to them, and they voted twice against it. Twice against it. Why are they so sensitive to moving forward and actually dealing on an issue that majority of Americans care about, is dealing with what's going on at the border?
It's our fault, you guys. It's always our fault. Isn't that amazing? Well, Republicans do this. So when they wanted to sit there and steal your money and give it to other people, which is a form of socialism, by the way, and what I mean by that more specifically is the student loan debt forgiveness program, they'll use executive authority to push that forward, even though the Supreme Court said, hey, that's an overreach of the executive branch. You can't do that. And Joe Biden gave them the middle finger and said, well, I'm going to do it anyways. It's okay to use executive action when it fits your narrative. But when it doesn't fit your narrative, then all of a sudden you have to use a legislative route. See how that all works? Well, we think the best form's legislation. Then why didn't you utilize legislation in forms of the student loan debt forgiveness program? So they're going to use executive action when it fits their narrative, but they're not going to use executive action, and they'll try to use a legislative route because they know that the Republicans kind of are workings and have the majority in the House, so they're not going to sit there and push forward things that way, and they can use it as a tool to sit there and basically club Republicans over the side of the head, even though the Democrats had all three branches of government their first year of office, but they didn't want to do anything then. They knew they could use that route, and this is all political games at the end of the day, but it's going to be our fault somehow in some way, shape, or form, which is totally bogus. Totally bogus. So Ducey also presses her on, well, you guys haven't had a press conference since President Biden dropped out of the race. So he makes this joke of like, I haven't seen you in a while.
Doing okay, thank you.
I haven't seen you in a while.
Well, you guys haven't had a press briefing since President Biden dropped out of the race. So
The president hasn't been.
Damn. Woo! Peter! He's the gladiator, boys and girls. He's the gladiator. He's one of the best. So what's interesting here is Karine was talking about all these talking points. Oh, he's the most popular president in history. We've done so many historical things. Kamala Harris is great. She's really worked in conjunction with the president. Whatever the president did, she was a partner in it. Well, really, because we have this here. Harris proposed $40 trillion in new government spending. Folks, gas prices are up 47%. Democrats want to vote for more of this, by the way. That's going to go up because of Kamala Harris wants to implement the Green New Deal. None of that's my words. That's her words. Consumer prices are up 19%. Grocery prices are up 20%. Electricity, 28%. Rent is up 21%. Credit card debt's up 44%, which tells you people don't have money. Real average hourly earnings are actually down, even though they're going to sit there and say your wages are up. They're going to sit there and lie to you. Democrats want more of this stuff. And my question has always been, why in God's green earth would you vote for more of this? I don't have an answer from any Democrats. They haven't given me one. And I mean that in all literal sense. The most recent Democrat that we maybe had was JWE Reviews, but now he's a registered Republican because even he didn't know. And no offense to you, brother. Love having you on our side of the aisle now, because he said he went and did research that night after he came on the show and kind of got berated by me a little bit. And all I did was propose questions of, look, I get why you would not vote for Donald Trump, but why would you vote for Joe Biden, who has sit there and created all these problems for yourself and all of us? Things aren't better. It's worse. They're still saying, you guys, inflation is down. Inflation is still up. It's double of what it was when you came into office, Joe. God, I'm so tired of people pushing this whole thing. And people are going, oh, prices are coming down. Look at people buy into this, you guys. Oh, prices are coming down. And what they do is they manipulate the data and go, well, year over year, it's down. It's still up. You still reamed me and my family and all Americans from behind. God. So here she is, Karine Jean-Pierre yesterday. Well, you know, he will go down in history as one of the nation's greatest presidents. Freaking clown show.
This is a selfless act, something that very few politicians would ever do. President Biden will go down in history as one of the nation's greatest presidents. This is a selfless act.
I mean, what do you even say? You know, when somebody says something so stupid, you actually don't know what to say. And a lot of times it's so stupid, you also don't know where to start of how stupid it was, because there's so many stupid things that you could call it. You're like, well, shit. I mean, immigration, foreign policy, domestic policy, Afghanistan pullout, where 13 soldiers were blown up and killed. You're giving $40 to $87 million to the Taliban. Inflation was at a 40-year high, 9.1%. Americans have to make $15,000 more now than they did under Trump just to break even. Your consumer prices are up, gas prices are up, electricity prices are up. Hamas invaded Israel and killed 1,700 people, which probably wouldn't have happened under Donald Trump. Russia invaded Ukraine. China's manipulating their currency. They're also sitting there doing war games off the coast of Taiwan. You got Iran being given $10 billion by Joe Biden as well. I mean, Joe Biden is physically funding terrorism, which is an astonishing thing that Democrats will vote for that more. Just openly voting for somebody that's supporting terrorist organizations. There's a strong case to be made, you guys, that since Joe Biden sent $10 billion to to the Iranians, or at least they could tap into the $10 billion, which is fungible money, meaning that the Iranians could sit there and actually restructure their budget. Since they're receiving $10 billion of humanitarian aid, now they could spend upwards of $10 billion on anything else. There's a strong case to be made that since they're having reports coming in that the Iranians were maybe working with the assassination attempt on Donald Trump, that some of that money could have gone to the assassination attempt of Donald Trump, and that could be linked to the Democrat Party and Joe Biden, which maybe could be a reason why Joe Biden dropped out. There's a conspiracy theory for you. Take it with a grain of salt, folks, okay? It's just a conspiracy theory. I'm not even promulgating it. I'm just saying it's an interesting thought because I find them fascinating. I don't necessarily believe in them. But there is a case to be made that Iran, the money, shuffling around. I mean, hey, put two and two together. So here she is falsely claiming that Harris-Biden administration has taken decisive action on the border.
The Biden-Harris administration has taken decisive actions to secure the border. Recently, the administration has taken action to hold criminal organizations accountable, including sanctions against different gangs and smuggling organizations that are responsible for various criminal activities.
They put
the Biden-Harris administration
on gangs and criminals, you guys. Let that sink in. Not on Mexico. That's allowing caravans. There's a caravan right now that's over 3,000 people that plans to make its way to the border before November that we covered in the show the other day because they're worried about these people not being able to come in because Donald Trump might be elected into office. That's why they're coming here now. Over 3,000 people, and that's going to grow bigger and bigger. They haven't done anything. They've actually implemented an app now. They had an app before, but I think there's this new app to where they can actually schedule a date to show up at the border and be let into the country. That's it. Yeah, no, they actually schedule an appointment like a doctor's appointment. You just show up and you're let into the country. So all these people are doing things the right way legally. The Democrats want to sit there and screw them over, which is astonishing because the Democrats are supposed to be for immigrants, right? They're supposed to be for the immigrants. If you're an immigrant and you're voting for the Democrat Party, aren't you just screwing over yourself and everything that you did to come in? Or maybe you have a family member that's doing it legally. Why would you vote for the Democrat Party there? Again, I'm trying to find avenues. If anybody knows in the chat, please let me know. If you're an independent Democrat, doesn't matter. Let me know, what are the positives of voting for Joey here? Like, how is this beneficial? I'm not saying voting for Donald Trump. I'm just asking, what is it that's literally going to make you wake up on election day, shower if you shower, and, grab your keys, or go to work, however, you leave work or you're going before work, and you're going to go in that booth, and you're gonna either dot, punch, however it is at your local area, vote for Joe Biden. Like, what is it that's gonna actually make you mark that piece of paper? I don't know. Crazy stuff. There's also crazy stuff coming from John Kirby. So here he was, you guys. I like to bring the receipts, right? I don't like to just pull stuff out of my you-know-what. You guys know that we show you stuff here. Here's John Kirby acknowledging the fact that Iran has been funding and encouraging some of these protest activities in the United States. These people were bussed in. There was video, cell phone video of that protest we showed yesterday, where they were vandalizing our statues and the Liberty Bell, but also sitting there and assaulting police officers. Yeah, those people were bussed in on coach buses. So here's this guy admitting to the fact that they're willing to sit there and fund protests. Why would they not be sitting there willing to fund these terrorists or a 20-year-old going after the former president? Here we go.
We've said ourselves, the director of national intelligence came out publicly and said that we do know that Iran has been funding and encouraging some of the protest activity here in the United States. Some of it.
There you go. There you go. You heard it from the horse's mouth. The horse's freaking mouth. I'm just as frustrated as you guys. I see you guys in the live chat there. I see what you're writing. Frustrating as heck. There you go. Bring in the receipts. That's right, Pat. So, Karine Jean-Pierre confirms Kamala Harris owns the failed Harris-Biden economy. The reason why that's important, because we showed all the prices. Short clip, but it's still important. Here we go.
She's been doing this job with the president for almost 4 years. She's a former senator and has been a critical partner in getting the economy restarted.
She couldn't even get it out of her mouth. That's when you know she's sitting there pulling out of her you-know-what. She don't have a clue. She don't know what's going on. Unbelievable. there was this last thing. This is a very short clip, but it just gives you an idea of how Americans feel, where almost half the country is not feeling good about their finances.
There's a new CNN poll out that says 39% of adults worry most of the time or all of the time that their income will not be enough to meet expenses. Prices are up 19% since President Biden.
Did you hear that? I want to play that back.
Meet expenses. Worry most of the time or all of the time that their income will not be enough to meet expenses.
That's why you see credit card debt up 40+%.
Prices are up 19% since President Biden and Kamala Harris, so the vice president, came into office. How long do Americans have to wait till this worry goes away?
So look, too many families are still struggling to make ends meet. That is something that the president understands, and that
I really don't want to listen to her regurgitate the same thing she's been saying for 3 years. This whole thing, oh, we're in a transition phase, right? They've been saying for their messaging has never changed, right? Because things have only gotten worse. There's no reason to change the messaging. Nothing's been done. Everything has gotten worse around us. The only thing that's gotten better is the economy, but the economy is going to grow almost naturally. I know we attribute a lot of times to the economy to the president, which there is some truth to that. The president's words do carry weight, and seeing who's the commander in chief in office and having that national security, but also the security around the world from your commander in chief will give a little bit more of a bias in terms of comfortability of investing in a market, knowing that those reassurance of security is there. So there is an aspect of the president having some sort of involvement in the economy, but for the most part, the president really doesn't. They can remove regulations and have some impact that way, 100%. But again, most of it comes from their mouths. When a president says, I want to remove the fossil fuel industry, that is going to have ramifications on the industry, because the fossil fuel companies and also investors don't want to sit there and actually invest in a drilling or go and get a rig, go get the insurance. They may have already had the permits for it, but that doesn't mean anything. Just because you have the permits for something doesn't mean you're actually going to execute it. If you knew somebody was going to sit there and hike up the prices on wood and concrete and steel, but you already had a permit to sit there from your locality to maybe redesign a room or sit there and remodel your house, but when you took out the permit, prices weren't the way they were, and you didn't have it in the budget to do in the first place, and you're not even quite sure how the market's going to sit there and react even going forward, then why would you remodel your house, but you have the permit? So it's stupid how they, oh, well, permits. That doesn't mean anything. Like, why in God's green earth would you have somebody go out and hire a bunch of people, get medical insurance, because it's a very dangerous job to do that, and build a whole rigging and find places where the oil's technically at, and have a long-term investment project, knowing that there's somebody in office, an entire party, half the country wants to sit there and dissolve you and have you extinct from the entire world in terms of your company and organization. Why would you ever go drill? So of course the president has some involvement here, but they're going to sit there and cover it up, you guys. Oh man, there's going to be some wild stuff these next 100 days, and we'll be on top of all of it, man. We're not going anywhere. Let me tell you, we are not going anywhere big time. Just want to give a friendly reminder, folks, that our show is going live starting next week. Oh, wait, I have one more week. I have one more week of 7 a.m. And then the following week, August 6th, let me make sure I have this right. August 5th, rather, we will be doing 6 a.m. Just want to make sure that everybody's aware. Well, our banners will change and everything like that. So please be aware that our show is going to be reverting in about a week or so to 6 a.m. So hopefully you guys can be awake and be here with us. That's why we're promoting 1775 coffee and all these things. Drink a cup of coffee with me, folks. And you'll be ahead of the news before you jump into maybe some other people's podcasts like Dan Bongino or Steven Crowder and others, folks. I see you on the live chat. I appreciate you hanging out with us here, folks. It's always good stuff. Always good stuff hanging out with you. Facts, Brad. Appreciate that. Very true. If you're just joining us again, folks, let's highlight this again. Really appreciative to Dylan, who is our Rumble coordinator, and he gave me again assurance that I could show these pictures. So Dylan was at the RNC, and if you're just joining us again, we have people coming in and out. We showed this earlier. He took some photos for us, and he's been a big advocate for the show here. And I wanted to give another shout out to Dylan for coming in here. He's a fan. And oh, there he is in the chat. Give a shout out to our boy Dylan. Make sure I write that. Give him a shout out. He is in the chat, folks. He will see your message. I don't know about the YouTube chat, but if you're in Rumble, he will see your Rumble message. He was kind enough to sit there and take these photos for us. He's been a big advocate for the show. And it was a really big deal for me to see this. I even wrote him back saying it's probably one of the coolest things I've actually ever seen. Us up there with having influencers and content creators and these people, walking by or sitting in there and checking out the show, that had basically everything to do with him. Even went out of his way as a small channel like mine to even talk to Dan Bongino and even name drop our show. I mean, to do that, it speaks volumes about his character and who he is as an individual. I understand he works for Rumble, but for somebody to do that, they must really believe in the show. Do you know what I mean? Again, we only have I shouldn't say only. We have about 775 followers on Rumble. Yeah, we have 62,000 on YouTube, but still to promote somebody's show like that at an event like this, I'm nothing comparable to Steven Crowder, and I'm up there on the screen with him. That means a lot. And again, I wanted to give a more of a public shout out to Dylan. Thank you, man, for all the support you've given the channel. And it means a lot that you're a fan of the show. And I was talking to my wife about it yesterday, and I really do thank you for everything you do for us over here. And so does the community. They're giving you some big shout outs here. And, it's the community and Rumble that I hope to make this thing even bigger. So thank you so much. I want to make sure I give you another shout out, but look at these pictures, guys. Isn't that freaking cool? Isn't that wild? That's crazy. That we were at the RNC. Look at us. Look at us, guys. That's all of us. That's not just me. That's all of us. You know what I mean? That's all of us in the chat. Mr. Trump. So again, thank you, Dylan, for everything you do, brother. Couldn't be more than happy to be over here at Rumble and have that be our home base as a platform. And I look forward to growing on this this channel, growing as a podcast. And we're not going anywhere. We're not going anywhere, folks. We'll need your help because at some point I might not have a real job because of, you know how people are with free speech. They don't like it. They don't like when you're sitting there spitting truth. With that being said, folks, we will we'll end it here. I don't know if we'll be back today, but we'll obviously be back tomorrow. Javier says, less than a week in for Harris, I'm starting to lose hope. Not sure if there's enough Americans that will see through the media lies that are coming these next 3 months, Javier. That's the scary thing. That is the scary thing that we're seeing. And that's why it's so important to have channels, not just like mine, but like Louder with Crowder or Dan Bongino. We're big fans of Dan here. Having channels like them and the Daily Wire that show the media's hypocrisy, and the hopes is that somebody will stumble in here and see that hypocrisy and at least question themselves, like we saw from JWE Reviews. JWE Reviews, who I don't know if it's in the chat now, but he was coming in here and we thought he was a troll, and he's now a registered Republican. He actually he emailed me. He wanted to come on the show that night or the next day and talk about his viewpoints and basically why he was going to vote for Joe Biden. And then, lo and behold, the following day, he's like, hey, I looked up a bunch of stuff you talked about. And then a few days later, he ended up registering as a Republican. And that's what we want here as a community, is to change people's minds. So that was one example of the impact that you guys can have in conjunction with me, that we can work together as a community of conservatives and Republicans and change people's minds. So it is happening. It's just sometimes you don't hear about it. We got Jay Johnson here, says, great show, my first visit, but we'll share. Thanks, Jay Johnson. And also thank you for the $20 for coming in and contributing on your first appearance here with our community. It's greatly appreciated. And that's what this channel is about. It's the community. It ain't me. I'm a knucklehead. I'm just here with a camera and a microphone. It's the community that we all come in and chat together. We know each other's names. We're all here to spread conservative and Republican ideology and thoughts. So mostly conservative. Hope everyone has a wonderful Friday. Me too, Mizzy. I hope you guys have a great weekend. Dylan says the Bald Brad community is the best on Rumble. Thank you, sir. God bless you. We got a lot of people here. Just want to make sure I get to any last comments. This is what we do. That's right, Lulu. That is right. Carried Cat Mom. Thanks, Dylan. The architect, the Dems are a lot. Yeah, Dems lie a lot. But Javier is right. That's a good take by Javier. I mean, we got to get out and vote, man. We got an uphill climb now. You guys, the big thing is going to be the next debate. I mean, it was right. That who would have thought the original debate that we had with Donald Trump and Joe Biden was like the biggest debate in like the country. And now we're about to have another bigger debate in the country. Trump can't afford to lose this. I'll be honest, I'm a little worried. I have to be honest. But we'll be live streaming it. Bring your freaking popcorn. Bring the drinks, folks. We'll do another bingo board for when that debate is. It's scheduled for ABC News in September, but I think there's going to be one in August. And maybe it's going to be with Fox, but we'll be here on Rumble, hanging out as a community. If there's something else that happens where we're going to go live, just be out there. Folks, if you're over at YouTube, really, head over to Rumble and follow us over there. YouTube does not give us notifications. They're subscribing, some of you. You got to go over to Rumble and make sure that you're at least a follower over there so you're notified when we go live. They are very responsive. I get a notification whenever Dan Bongino goes live on my wrist, and also when we go live. So we know it's good. With that being said, hit that like button, leave us a comment down below. If you need anything, send us an email. I do read every single email. I read every single comment. Would love your support. I hope you guys have a wonderful weekend. Be safe. Don't do anything stupid. Don't get arrested. Don't break the laws. And honestly, pray for our country. With that being said, folks, I will see you tomorrow here on the Bald Brad Show, and we'll definitely be back Monday, 7 a.m. Pacific Standard Time for another episode of the Bald Brad Show. Take care, Patriots.